Alrighty. So, this is actually going to be one in which I'm going to be criticizing some of the mainstream media coverage of this story because, and generally the coverage and response to this by the Democrats, because if I'm being honest, there's a fair amount of hypocrisy, and it just doesn't feel like a very effective attack against Trump or his Republican constituents. This is a little bit old already, like 3 days old news at this point, but I do feel I have a relatively unique take to bring to the table as far as left-wing coverage of this topic, so I think it's worth, talking about this. I assume you guys are familiar with Donald Trump posting on his Truth Social account that image of, like, a truck where it's like, on the tailgate, it's got, like, a sticker where it's Joe Biden hogtied in the back, right? A lot of mainstream media on the left and Joe Biden's entire, cabinet itself has called this, an incitement for violence and called for this to be, viewed as an active call for violence. And I get why a lot of people want to jump immediately to that position, but, I mean, come on, do you guys agree that was the same case when Kathy Griffin posted an image of herself holding a decapitated Trump head on Twitter? All the left was defending her there for the most part. Most of the left defended her there. And I feel it's blatantly hypocritical to defend Kathy Griffin in that instance. Yeah, but that was based when she did it. I do want to just default to, yeah, but it's based when we do it. But that's not a very effective line of argument, I'd say. I think it's important to maintain some level of moral consistency, regardless if action... I don't think an action should just be bad solely if someone who you disagree with does it. Aw, come on, morals schmorals. Okay, I get that you're memeing. Regardless, though, this seems a little bit extreme of a reaction. Of all the things to attack Trump over, I think this is one of the weakest things they could go after Trump with, especially on, legal grounds.
Biden's campaign says former President Trump is inciting political violence after he shared a video on social media showing what appears to be an image of the president tied up and kidnapped in the back of a pickup truck. ABC News political director Rick Klein joins me now for more. Rick, does this qualify as inciting political violence, and how is the Trump campaign responding to what...
It's arguable, but the problem is who it is arguable to. And the people you have to argue it to are not going to be that well convinced that this was a blatant incitement of violence towards the president. Because, Trump is just like that. He makes insightful posts. Or not insightful posts. He makes derogatory memes and rude posts. He clearly didn't mean violence by this. He posts about people like this all the time.
What the Biden camp is saying here.
Yeah, this is a...
If he didn't get got for Jan 6th, he won't get got for this.
Very brief portion. You really have to slow down the video to see it. That was posted, portion of a video that was taken, according to the Trump campaign, just along the roadway on Long Island last week when Donald Trump was in town to commemorate the fallen police officer who had been killed. From the Biden campaign's view, this is dangerous imagery in the context of other incitements that they'll cite. From the Trump campaign's view, this is something that was out there on a public roadway, and it was very brief and very quick. And I think often with Donald Trump, the point is the provocative.
Crazy how in America it is legal to create art and depict it basically being a joke that you have kidnapped the president. Maybe that guy's going to get a knock on his door from Secret Service. It wouldn't surprise me if he does, but as far as I know, he's just been driving around with that, So, isn't America amazing that the First Amendment gives you the right to do that, when in other countries, within a day, you would be getting taken away by men in black suits and black sunglasses to be disappeared?
Action, the provocative gesture, the provocative image, and then they're happy to deal with any fallout that occurs as a result.
Now, President Biden and former President Trump also shared very different messages on Easter Sunday. Walk me through that, the strategy there, and the reaction those messages are getting.
Yeah, it is striking because in addition to the traditional White House Easter message, you saw the President Biden commemorate the National Day of Trans Visibility, which occurs on March 31st traditionally. That got some backlash from the right.
It's funny, too, because the right freaked out, but, like, that holiday has been the last day of March for as long as it's been a thing, you know? And Easter isn't always on the last day of March. It just happened to be this year. So it's just a random thing that, like, happens to happen. Since 2009, yes, yeah. So it's just a very bizarre freak out from the right, where I guess they just kind of had the right circumstances to make it a big culture war thing for a couple days this year. And it's always about, like, what can they make a big viral post about today? They don't care about yesterday, and they don't care about tomorrow.
I think misconstruing what that resolution was or what the commemoration was, it's always on the 31st. It happens to be Easter Sunday. That doesn't take away from the Easter message that President Biden, a devout Catholic, shared. From Trump's perspective...
Yeah, remember, by the way, Biden, for all of his extremely progressive, pro-trans, pro-LGBT, all that stuff, like statements and policies, is himself a Catholic. Also, look how fucking dope the presidential transport cars are. You can't see as much because, like, my camera's covering it, but look at that, like, is that, like, some sort of vault lock with, like, biometric fingerprint scanning or something? You can see that this is, like, it's fully hermetically sealed. It's, like, armored thickly. It's got, like, it's a beast of a car. It's called the Beast. Yeah, it's literally called the Beast. Look at that thing. Holy fuck. Hold on. Let me get rid of my camera so you can see how thick the interior is. Look at that monster. Just that car door gives you a little perspective on what this thing has got going on. It's mostly classified from what I've heard, but, like, the presidential, like, vehicles are super cool. It's a foot thick. That goes hard.
Keep in mind that earlier in the week, he was hawking Bibles. He had endorsed an official Donald Trump Bible that we believe he has a financial stake in. He had a kind of a searing...
Remember when Trump had COVID and had Secret Servicemen trapped in there with him because he wanted to, like, drive around and wave at like, protesters that were there to support him? So he got into this, like, hermetically sealed thing to, like, fill it up with COVID virus shit in the air and get all of his Secret Service guys sick.
Message against a lot of the judges and the legal mechanisms that are mobilizing against him, or that are now holding up a lot of parts of his campaign, in addition to his Easter message. I think it's a bit of a kerfuffle that doesn't actually signify much, other than, again, remind people that are in Trump's camp why they're there, and remind people that in Biden's camp or the anti-Trump camp why they're there.
I can't stop thinking about the Kathy Griffin thing. Like, I get that this is clearly part of Trump's pattern of, like, playing into the violent tendencies of his audience, and he's, like, supporting it. But this is such a weak thing to go after Trump for, if I'm being honest. Like, people don't like Biden enough to consider Trump attacking Biden to be a gotcha. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying here? Like, that people don't like Biden enough for that to be a deal breaker. You know, that just makes them like Trump more if they didn't already like Biden. So it's just from every angle feels like a weak point of attack, like, against Trump. And, you know, I'm not one to generally criticize the Democrats for how they attack the Republicans. I'm usually like well, they're attacking the Republicans, you know, they're the good guys. But this is actually a point where I feel there is some valid criticism to be given.
And Rick, last week, President Biden broke records with a fundraiser and how much money they raised in this joint event with former President Obama and former President Clinton. Now, Trump and the Republican Party are planning a joint fundraiser in Florida, and they say it will likely raise more money than that event in New York last week. How significant is that? And what does
it will not.
What does it tell you about this presidential race?
Well, first, I think it's important in the fine print of this. We don't know if it's actually going to break that record number. We won't know for several weeks whether they raise that kind of money. It's very plausible, given there's $800,000 or so max out donation. And if you give the maximum, at least a few $1,000s of that money is going to go to one of Donald Trump's PACs that has been funding some of the legal bills to the tune of $50 million plus. So there is some interesting side notes to what exactly the money is going toward. But here's the thing, Diane. I don't think either candidate is going to be hurting for money this year. This election is not going to be won or lost based on whether they're well funded. They're going to have that access, and the RNC and the Trump operation is now coming into a little bit more action. Although they acknowledge they're likely to be outspent by Joe Biden, they say they're not going to raise as much money as Joe Biden dollar for dollar.
Yeah, Joe Biden has broken records in campaign fundraising. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is a financial black hole that no one wants to donate to because it is not going to be a good ROI. So like none of them want to donate to the GOP or the I'm blanking on the RNC. They don't want to like support Trump or his campaign because they think they know campaign funds will go to his legal fees. So the Republican Party is running out of money as Trump runs out of money because Trump is the black hole sucking away the Republican Party's money into like an endless pit of despair. Meanwhile, no one wants to give their money to that like place that is currently being assailed by a money black hole. So it's a bit of a dilemma that Trump and the Republican Party are in at the moment.
All right,
And after all this, he still has to pay for a campaign.
Director Rick Klein, always great to have you, Rick. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Hi, everyone. George.
Cool. I actually think their coverage was pretty good. They seemed like they were somewhat critical of the idea of blowing this out of proportion. I'm glad to see the left didn't go too far on this thing because, like, it wasn't all that good of a point of attack on Trump. Like, for all the stuff that he's done that's so bad, there's so many other things that we should be focusing on. The fact that he posted a meme where someone else's truck has Biden hogtied in it. I mean, there's certainly a conversation to be had there, but like making a motion for this to be considered like an incitement of political violence is, if Jan 6th wasn't it, this won't be it. Simple.